And we are back, folks. Welcome to another episode of The Space Weather. We got a heaping helping of data for you. We're looking at the sun in 193 angstroms here. Giant coronal hole just about to be in the fully Earth-facing region. At the same time that a coronal hole high-speed wind stream arrives. So lots of stuff going on. We just saw the solar wind density ramp down as the solar wind speed ramps up. And lots of stuff to cover. We're going to be producing 2 videos in a short period of time today, so look for our second video after you're done watching this one. Again, heaping helping of space weather to come. Let's look at one more view, 304 angstroms. We're using the SDO site here. Thanks new subscribers, thanks patrons, etc. Stay tuned, there's a lot of data to cover and a lot of interesting stories that we'll be covering in our second video today. So most of the filamentary activity has settled down here in 304 angstroms. And let's move on to more stuff. And before we do that, let's talk about supporting the channel. Now, you may see advertisements here. YouTube pays us precisely zero. I don't want to do anything too controversial. Pays us exactly $0. So please support us on Patreon. You could also do PayPal donations if you want to be anonymous. Also check out the Hemp Lucid Spaced Out campaign, specifically formulated for our spaced out viewers. Links in the description to all of these locations. So if you're in the market for CBDs, please help to support the channel in that way and ensure the possibility that these videos will continue to exist. Alright, let's move on here to the real-time solar wind, which the speed is ramped up to 547 kilometers per second, so that's that coronal hole wind stream. I was expecting this to hit a little bit earlier than this, but there you have it, 504 kilometers per second. Solar wind density has dropped down to 2.98. We've seen some big fluctuations in the BTBZ up here, and it's diverging again. We're seeing high BT, which is the black line in the top pane there, and negative BZ, that's associated with earthquakes. Awaiting more magnetic connections with that coronal hole, which is going to show up as a phi angle around this area like it was here. At any time, keep in mind the plasma that's in between us and the sun right now does affect the fields, and we see extreme choppiness in those fields. The ACE data pretty much agrees with the discovered data, nothing to write home about there. 10.7 centimeter radial flux still at solar minimum conditions, not as low as it was, off of the ultimate lows of 66 solar flux units back up to 67. And if you're wondering, the F10.7 centimeter radial flux is a measurement of radial flux from the sun's outer corona, and it's a fairly close proxy to sunspot number. And we're not going to get into all the solar activity today, but there's a whole bunch of different measurements of what the sun's doing. And again, solar minimum conditions. Now we're expecting to see some action going on here in our 4 hours of magnetosphere movies. Looking at the density here, we're expecting to see this drop down toward the end of the movie. It looked like might have been some missing data there. Let's bring that back after it plays through once. Expecting to see this drop down and puff out toward the end. And it looks like it's just occurring now, actually, as the solar wind ramps up. Looking for missing data here. 7 o'clock. Nope, it looks like it's all there. So, looks like a density spike there. And let's look at the pressure also. There's the pressure. And we'll let that play all the way through. And this University of Michigan geospace model, part of the space weather modeling framework. If you want to read all about how these models are derived, just click the links below the video. Some seriously anomalous looking data there, folks. Some real oddities there in the magnetosphere, at least according to the space weather modeling framework. Let's move on to the geospace the geospace ground magnetic perturbation movies. Here's 4 hours of data, and we do expect to see the current blasting through the whole planet. We've got some anomalies in the ionosphere also that we're going to highlight in a minute. So don't go anywhere, as there is a lot more stuff to cover. Anyway, there's 4 hours of data a little bit closer to home, the geospace magnetosphere movies on the ground level. KP has recently come up to 3, and the official NOAA forecast is for this to get to 4. Unsettled geomagnetic conditions as that coronal hole wind stream continues to ramp up. Something to watch is the solar wind velocity. We'll do a cosmic ray rundown real quick. There's Apatity. Let's shrink that down one size. There we go. And there's Barentsburg. There's the Athens, Greece neutron monitor. And we see at some of the highest levels we've seen in about 3 weeks there. Here's Mexico City. And we've been seeing a ramping up there in the nominal ranges over the past week as well. Here's Moscow. If you're not familiar with the effect of cosmic rays on cloud nucleation, cooling the planet via the albedo effect especially, well, it's one of the primary drivers of the Earth's climate, folks. It's not CO2. It's not you. It's from space. It's from space, folks. There's Oulu's neutron monitor, Oulu, Finland. Don't listen to the channels that are telling you we're at the highest cosmic ray flux ever, because that happened in 2009 and 2010, as you can clearly see. Here's DOMC Antarctica. And here's DOMB Antarctica, which is not sending back data over the past recent period. Here's the ionosphere anomaly that we were talking about. This one occurring at 7:45 UT. Looks like essentially a discharge event there. And it does go from pole to pole, so that's an oddity. Let's let the video play all the way through here. I'll let that play through one more time for you in case you missed it. And here's the latest image. Looking pretty normal otherwise, besides that little anomalous spike in the F2 layer. GOES X-ray flux is still totally flatlined, as you'd expect. We haven't even seen a B-class flare since July 7th. Now we're seeing a dip in the electron flux, as we typically do, characteristic of a coronal hole wind stream. And there you see that extreme dip in the electron flux. I like to call this proton light, as keep in mind, folks, the primary component of the solar wind are hydrogen nuclei, or you can call them solar protons. That's the proton density that we're talking about, and that causes that dip in the electron flux. Here's the GOES magnetometer and continued spikiness as that coronal hole wind stream arrives. Next, we'll look at the gong too, and see what's going to happen next to the best of our ability. Here's the newest information from that. Let's press play. We do see some fluctuations on the far side of the sun. You're going to see these fields kind of getting a little squirrely up there, as well as some active looking regions right here behind this North Pole associated portion of the current sheet. So that's something to look at, although when this coronal hole wind stream dies down in about 16 hours, we expect to see fairly smooth magnetic sailing. Next, we're going to show you some coronal mass ejections. One on the far side of the sun, over here, as well as one on the Earth side of the sun, which looks like it'll miss the Earth by a lot to the south. It's pretty minor also, and something went wrong there. Let me try to reload that. Alright, and there's the most recent animation of this. Let me shrink that down one size. You see a coronal mass ejection coming out of the south of the Earth-facing portion right there. Let me rock that back. You see a little bit of plasma coming out right in that region right there. Looks like it'll miss the Earth to the south. And also we do see a coronal mass ejection on the far side of the sun, over here, screen left. A more serious coronal mass ejection there, but again, nothing Earth-facing. Here's the locations of the stuff in the solar system, prompting me to say Milky Way galaxy team for the win. There's where things will be in 1 week, and we're going to be talking about Mars conjunctions and lots of other cosmology stuff on our second video of the day. So don't forget to tune into that after this video. Give us about a half an hour, and we'll get up a second one. Here's the situation in the sky. There's going to be a cosmic pileup happening today once again, as the moon rises, and then Mercury rises, and then the sun and Venus and Mars all up in the sky at the same time. Check it out. Do an earthquake rundown. Everything above a 4 magnitude, we're going to cover it. About 20 hours ago, we see a 4.8 at Indonesia. There's a 4.4 at Indonesia, 4.0 in the Aleutian Islands there. There's a bunch of volcanic islands out there in the Aleutians. Here's a 4.9 at depth of Japan. We've been seeing deep quakes there. That would be the second guess for a large quake, as we're seeing a 6 and 7 magnitude earthquake drought continuing. Expecting that to end very soon, probably in Western South America, but could be in Japan also. Here's a 5.1 at Vanuatu. Excuse me, a 4.8 at Vanuatu, a 4.7 at Peru. That one's also at depth. Again, shout out Western South America. Don't be surprised if you see a larger quake at the surface. Another deep Peruvian quake there, 4.6 magnitude, 112 kilometers depth. Here's a 4.7 at Japan. That one close to the surface, and a 4.6 at Indonesia. Moving on to the windy.com pressure maps. Check out the great mobile app that windy.com has. You can animate the pressure maps. This is the GFS model. And it looks like there is a low that's coming into southern South America down here. I believe it's Chile. Don't quote me on it. My South American geography isn't that great. And there's about where the pressures will be 24 hours from now. Again, please have an earthquake plan if you live in an earthquake-prone zone, especially if you've been seeing deep earthquakes, such as at Japan and at Western South America. Now, we've been seeing an increase in volcanic activity. We did see a at least the third stratospheric explosion of the year here, coming out of that Russian volcano on Kamchatka. Let's do the rundown of what's going on right now. Sanjiang Api. Intermittent eruptions there and producing a 10,000-foot ash plume. Tucono exploding, 7,000-foot ash plume there. Popocatépetl exploding, 20,000-foot ash plume there. Sangay has dissipated. Revenador has dissipated. Sabancaya exploding, producing a 26,000-foot ash plume. Please do not attempt to do a back handspring over Sabancaya. And Ubinas in Peru, no emissions. Here are the jet streams in the Western world, and we see extreme meridional jet stream flow, where the jet stream's moving north and south, or sometimes even east to west, and a very powerful jet stream in the south. Let's rotate it around, look at the jet stream in the Eastern world, and then continue on with even more stuff. Trying to keep it as dense as we can, like certain people's brains. Here's the U.S. Doppler radar, courtesy of AccuWeather.com, and we see extreme storms over southern Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, and some weaker but still heavy storms over central Illinois and Indiana, as well as over Lake Superior. And let's animate the water vapor map here on the GOES interactive weather satellite. It looks like there could be a Borg cube moving across the screen here. You'll see it right in this region going over. It looks like a Borg cube might have gone over Montana and stuff over the northern U.S. Please leave a comment if you saw a Borg cube fly over. Again, there goes that Borg cube. Or perhaps it was Sasquatch activity. We're not sure. It could be a cloaked spacecraft. Please leave a comment, Mr. MBB333, if you're watching this video and you're absolutely amazed, and that's something you've never seen in your whole entire life. Let's look at this convergence zone here, as this is one heck of a convergence zone. This area over Oklahoma. Check it out. That is going to be a disaster as we see massive pressure gradients. We see these parallel lines here. They're not chemtrails. They're not contrails. They're Hall currents created by electrical current, folks. When you look at these kind of systems, what you're looking at is a three-dimensional representation. You're actually looking at a two-dimensional representation of a seriously three-dimensional process here. If you don't understand atmospheric physics, keep watching our channel. It might start to sink in. Anyway, major Earth spot there, and that's going to be causing havoc. Hoping everybody's doing okay down there. Please leave a shout out, leave a comment if you experience this. And if you've got some video of a tornado or a hailstorm or something like that on your Instagram, leave us a link. We will feature it on the channel. Let's talk about prepping real quick. Do you have a nextdoor.com account for your neighborhood? Well, my neighborhood didn't have one, so I started one myself. What this is a way to network your neighbors. See, Nancy Pelosi agrees. She has an account, obviously. She likes to go riding with her bike with a basket, hopefully avoiding all of the human excrement on the streets of San Francisco. So check out nextdoor.com. It's a great way to network your neighborhood. You can alert people of criminal activity. You can give away stuff. You can offer contracting jobs, all that sort of stuff. Set up block parties, whatever you want to do. Nextdoor.com. If you don't have one in your neighborhood, set one up. Be proactive. I did, and we got it's about 1/3 of the homes in our neighborhood are part of the Nextdoor network. Again, a great way to connect with your neighbors, share the local news, get the skinny on what's going on in your neighborhood. Again, we're going to be making another video shortly, folks. It's the donkey versus sinkhole section, as we appreciate when our viewers understand the distinction between their donkey and a hole in the ground. We call that censorship where I come from. Teaser, we're going to be talking about all kinds of controversial stuff again, so watch our next video also. So please don't forget to press like and subscribe. Share with your friends on social media. Share with your foes on social media. Thank you, new subscribers, and especially thanks donors for helping to keep the channel afloat. And especially thanks patrons. If you're not a patron on Patreon, please become one. Check it out. Some of the posts are public, so if you refuse to open up your moth-filled wallet, you can still see some of the stuff, just not all of it. Thanks, Smash Team. That's viewers, commenters, and everybody, as this is a collaborative effort. So cheers. And stay tuned for one bonus feature, which is the 171 Ashram view, my personal favorite. Check it out. Good times. Good times over there. There is a little bit of activity right down here, but nothing resembling a sunspot, folks. Again, 10.7 centimeter radial flux back at 67. Solar minimum conditions not as low as it had been a few days. For about a week, we were at 66 solar flux units. So there you have it. Thanks again for tuning in, folks. Remember, stare at the sun. And when you're doing so, don't drink. But if you do drink, just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.